is up, folks? Welcome to the latest episode of the Harold McBasketball Show. I'm your gracious host, as always, Harold McBasketball, along with my co-host, I Know Ball, Paul. Paul, how are you?
I'm doing fine. It is 7:11 p.m. here in Boston, Massachusetts.
Let's
The
go.
Celtics Heat will tip off in 30 minutes. So I'll probably miss the first quarter, but it's all right. I'm excited to tune in and watch Boston take a nice 3-1 lead, and then we'll end it in Boston for game 5. How are you feeling, Harry?
Feeling great. There's definitely some dedicated podcasting missing out on the start of this Celtics game, but I think it says something about our confidence right now. If I was really worried about this game, there'd be no chance I'd be missing it. But the 2-1 lead feels um, I don't know. It felt relatively dominant even with the game two loss. That feels like it was kind of a fluke. Had me a little bit worried after what we saw last year with the Heat's ability just to get hot and stay hot from three. But I don't know. I feel better for game three. I feel like the Celtics should be able to take care of business today. So I'm a very happy sports fan right now. I've been loving these playoffs. They've been super interesting. And yeah, I'm just down to talk more about them.
Yeah, we knew we had to check in. We were kind of breaking it down pre-show and saying that there's, I think, 4 pretty interesting series and 4 that are kind of not as interesting. So we kind of want to delve into, we're going to touch on all of the matchups, obviously, but there are a few that we really want to delve in and kind of give our opinions on. So I'll let you lead the way. Do you want to maybe just start with Boston, Miami?
Yes, that's what I was planning on starting with anyway. That feels like a natural segue since we already kind of talked about them a little bit. Yeah, I don't think this one's interesting anymore. I thought for game two maybe it would be, but Celtics are still amazing, and the Heat are just playing without Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier, who's a pretty important pickup for them at the trade deadline this year. So they're down a lot of firepower right now. They're really banking on guys like Martin to have really big days, Duncan Robinson, and they just don't always get it. So yeah, I think the Heat are cooked. I think the Celtics should get this done in five, and anything else I'd be pretty upset about.
Yeah, I sure hope so. Obviously, tonight it's in Miami, so anything could happen. But like you said, it did feel like game 2 was a fluke. We are biased Celtics fans, but we really got it done fairly easily in games 1 and 3, and then obviously Miami had quite the shooting night in game 2. Um, but then again, they were carried to the finals last year on the back of insane shooting, so I don't doubt that they could shoot the lights out again tonight or moving forward, but I'm feeling pretty comfortable as a Celtics fan.
Yeah, and it's kind of the Heat style where with this team, especially without Butler and Rozier, they're very much feast or famine. Like they need to shoot 50% from three to win. And even then they still only barely won game two against the Celtics. Like that was also
Yeah.
just like terrible offense from the Celtics. So they need a lot of things to go right. So it's either they're gonna feast on their threes and have a chance to win it, or they're not gonna hit, 40+% of their threes. They're not really gonna be in the game. So I think the Celtics should take care of it. I do have one interesting note for the Celtics that's like slightly concerning for me. And I know we're only 3 games in, but Drew Holiday averaging 6 points per game on 28% shooting is very bad. And we kind of see in the playoffs for with the Bucks, where like sometimes when we beat them in series, a big part of it was like even though the Drew's defense was amazing, the offense wasn't always super consistent. And we don't need him to be a big time scorer. Like he's probably the fourth offensive option, maybe even fifth behind Derek White. But still, even someone of his caliber, I would hope to at least be scoring like 10, 12 points per game in the playoffs. So I think the Celtics are going to need more out of him as the series go on. I think they're fine without him in the Heat series, but I think as the teams get more competitive, that could be an area of weakness moving forward. It's just something I'm monitoring right now. He could totally change that. If he just has like 1 20-point game, I'll be like, all right, it's still there. He can still have a big game when we need it, but it's something I'm monitoring right now.
Yeah, that is interesting. I know KP kind of struggled in those first 2 games, but I think he had a nice bounce back game in game 3. I think he had 18, 5, a couple blocks. So um, yeah, I want to see Drew do well. Obviously, this regular season, he was super efficient, especially shooting the 3 ball, particularly from the corner. I think he was shooting like 50%. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is something to monitor for sure. that Miami zone, I guess, is, it does wonders, and we're seeing Jason and Jalen definitely pull most of the weight out there. But some nice moments from White, from Horford as well, and
Totally,
Kristaps
totally.
finally got his.
Horford has been, yeah, Horford has been as solid as ever in the playoffs. Like way smaller role, obviously coming off the bench now, but the dude is still a rock in the playoffs. Like he's still been great.
Yeah, no, it's such a luxury just to have him coming off the bench. And I was saying this in our group chat, but the way he plays defense always kills me. I love Al Horford, but he does get away with so much grabbiness, and I mean he's a great defender as is, but it's so hard to score on a guy. I'm sure that's kind of holding your hip the whole time. So shout out Al Horford. That's his defense right there. But
Yeah, I think part of that is also being a veteran in the league though. Like he's probably been in the NBA for 16, 17 years. So I think over that time he's just kind of figured out like what the refs are going to call, what they're not, and what he can take advantage of. And he just tailored his defensive play style to just figure out everything he can get away with, and he does it. And I think it's always
yeah.
what made him such an effective Embiid stopper is he could play him tough, without falling for the foul baiting that Embiid is very known for. And now the ball kicking that Embiid is also known for after two good nut strikes the other day.
Yeah, yeah, no. Embiid, should we transition to that matchup, or do we have any final thoughts on the Celtics? I mean, in conclusion, I still feel very comfortable, and obviously if this game doesn't go our way, then I'll feel a lot less comfortable, but I'm confident as it stands right now.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm okay segueing to the Sixers and Knicks. We're kind of going away from the order of sticking with the games that I don't think are interesting because although this one's 3-1, I still think it's pretty interesting.
Oh, okay.
But who cares about the order? Let's just talk about it. We already talked about Embiid. Let's get into it. Yeah, super interesting. So this is 3-1 right now. Knicks obviously up 3 games, Sixers only with one, but although it's 3-1, like it's been a super interesting series. The game the other day was very close. Brunson going off for 47, 10, and 4. Really entering himself into the conversation of, not only is he like clearly this perennial all-star, but it's like what level of superstar is he? Like we're talking about best point guards in the league. I think he's officially in that conversation with guys like, you know, Kyrie Irving, Curry, because he's just in his prime unstoppable scorer. The
Yeah.
Knicks are amazing, and he's the best player in the team. Like it's not like they've got a big three or even really a big two. It's all in the back of Jalen Brunson's. Like he's been amazing. Knicks have been great, but this could also very easily be a 2-2 series if the Knicks, or sorry, if the Sixers didn't completely melt down at the end of game two and blow that game. So it's been an interesting 3-1 series, I think.
Yeah, and I think they did kind of get robbed at the end of that game. I think the refs kind of came back and said Maxey was probably fouled on that turnover, and they might have missed a timeout that Nick Nurse called on that final possession. So that was definitely a tough, demoralizing loss there for the Sixers. But the Knicks came up huge, and that's part of the game. But yeah, like you said, Brunson has blown me away. I mean, he had maybe the best second half of the season. Like if MVP was just second half of the season, he might have been a front runner. Bringing the Knicks all the way to the second seed. He
Yeah,
looks like
insane.
he's maybe the best Knicks point guard ever. I mean, I just can't think of many off the top of my head, but
There are
uh,
definitely some old heads that would argue
yeah,
with you.
Walt Frazier maybe or
Yeah,
something.
that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, yeah, legend, sure.
Um, but yeah, I expect the Knicks to kind of close this out in the next couple games. I don't know. The Sixers, this was a series that I was very torn on, but I don't know. I think the Knicks really have the Sixers kind of figured out, and Embiid, they're just out rebounding, out hustling, out playing the Sixers, and I feel like every category. So I think they'll get it done in the next couple games, but I hope the Sixers can extend it and make it a more interesting series for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if the Sixers can take game five, obviously it's going back to New York. That's gonna be a tough game to win. But if they take it, it's kind of anyone's series at that point, because then all of a sudden you get game six in Philly, you got a home game for the Sixers, and then game seven, anything can happen. So I think it's still somewhat interesting. I do think that I may have underrated or kind of, I don't know, just like missed how slowed down Embiid might be from his injury. Because it feels like although he does have like some really big nights, it feels like it's almost every other night where it's like one big night, then like a slow night where he looks pretty slow on the court. It's falling a lot, not putting a ton of weight on his knee. So if Embiid was fully healthy, it's like I think this series would be even more interesting. But I do think that has been a huge advantage for the Knicks because it has allowed them just to grab way more offensive rebounds, do a little bit more inside. And Embiid just like isn't capable of scoring 40 plus every night in his current condition. Although he has done it this series. He has had a game where he did it. So we'll see. I think it's super interesting. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I like this Knicks team, or sorry, the Sixers team, but I still don't think it's the Sixers year with the Embiid injury. But good for the Knicks. Like this is amazing for them. They get the 2 seed this year. They've definitely proved that they're worthy of it. Their role players have been amazing. Like DiVincenzo has been super clutch. Insane aura oozing from him. OG has been really solid. Hardenstein has been a beast. Like he's been an absolute force on the offensive boards. And like Josh Hart, solid as ever. Like this team is super deep. They're just filled with like awesome shooters, awesome hustle guys, the classic Thibodeau team. So they're interesting, and I really like how their round two matchup would look against the winner of the Pacers and Bucks series. So they have a very legitimate chance of making it to the Eastern Conference Finals right now.
Yeah, especially if the Pacers sneak through. Um, yeah, I think I saw a stat where they were like 23 and 4 since OG joined the team, and they've looked so good in that time. It's crazy to think that how much this team has changed. I mean, not so dramatically, but we're talking, no Randall. They traded Barrett and quickly, and this new group
It
has meshed together so
yeah.
well.
It's crazy that they've someone in Randall who's making about $30 million per year just not playing in the playoffs. Like if that money was like allocated to someone who fit this team better, they would have another level to get to. Like they legitimately have money for like another fringe all-star player on this roster. Um, I believe Randall has been ruled out for the playoffs, so it's like, they only need to worry about trying to mesh him back in the middle of it. But I am interested to see kind of what they do in the offseason, if they decide to bring him back or if they want to see if they can um, allocate that money better, even if it does mean just breaking Randall up into smaller contracts or something.
Will be interesting. I think we've been pretty vocal about not
Yeah, get
loving
rid of him.
Randall's
Get rid of him. The Knicks team has been so awesome without Randall. Just like, yeah, the core they have right now is so perfect. Don't do anything to mess it up. So we'll see what they do during the offseason, but they have potentially a very interesting playoff run ahead of them. So let's focus on that.
But yeah, like you said, if the Sixers steal this game and then they're going back home, anything could happen. I just kind of wanted to make a note that like you said, Embiid just carries so much like weight offensively that sometimes I think to a detriment, where you kind of see the defensive rebounding and the defense sometimes it feels like he's a bit lazy, or like, yeah, and he's coming back from an injury, and again he's carrying such a load offensively that I'm not like trying to call him out, but I forget the stat, but the Knicks are out rebounding them like crazy. And a lot of the footage is Embiid not really boxing out, and some guy just Hartenstein getting it over the top of him, and yeah, I had talked about how I think the drop defense versus kind of stepping up on those runs and screens was going to make a difference, and it feels like he hasn't really stepped all the way up defensively. Again, he had like a 50-point night, so I'm not trying to rag on him, but it feels like if more of the offense was kind of, shared amongst Maxi and some of those other guys instead of Embiid, he could kind of put more effort on the defensive and rebounding end, and that would help them more overall.
Yeah, and the tough thing is at the start of the season when he was healthy, he was able to do that. He was able to just do everything out there, like play awesome defense, carry the offense. But each clearly is not 100% right now, so he can't do everything anymore. And I think with the current structure of this team, they need Embiid at 100%. They need him to be able to do everything. And if they don't have Embiid doing that, then the team's just not quite in the top tier of Eastern Conference team. So that's what we're seeing this year. I think they'll kind of run it back next year. I don't foresee any huge changes. I think Tobias Harris might be let go because I think his contract is up and he's probably going to walk. So
Yeah.
maybe they make a change from there, but probably not. It might be one of those things where they still have enough with Maxi, Embiid, and all the other role players they have. So I think they'll run it back and just get healthy next year.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Maxi will take another step, get most improved again, and
Yeah, get it again. Yeah.
yeah, I like this roster. I like how it's constructed. I like the names, but um, I don't know. You first of all, you need to bank on a healthy Embiid, and it's like so rare to have him in full form by the playoffs. And then I don't know, like Maxi's awesome, but then after that, like I like the role players, but they need more offensive talent. I think Tobias Harris hasn't been able to step up like we
Yeah.
hoped, and
Yeah,
Oubre's kind
exactly.
of inconsistent. Batum's offensively just nothing, and Lowry is kind of in that same boat. So
Yeah, they have some guys who are capable of like scoring a little bit, but they're all like off-ball players. Like they got no one out there that can create their own shot. Like between Buddy, Oubre, Tobias, Batum, all pretty good shooters, but that's really their thing. Like none of them are running the pick and roll. None of them are really creating their own offense. So it feels like this Clippers team could use, or sorry, not Clippers, same colors, but it feels like this Sixers team could use one more guy. I was about to talk about the Clippers in a second. They have been eyeballing Paul George, if the Clippers do not end up extending him. So maybe that'd be the perfect avenue. If they could get small forward, shot creator. Tobias Harris leaving should open up a little bit of money for them to make some moves there. So maybe that's an option for them. I don't know. They might reset a little bit this offseason, but I think they're still a good team. I think they just need to be healthy. And in a perfect world, they would get one more on-ball scorer, but easier said than done, especially someone with Paul George's caliber. Every team in the league wants these two-way shot creating small forwards. So they're hard to get. If they can get it, amazing. But if not, I still like their future. And I think as long as the team stays healthy, we wouldn't see them as a seventh seed again, even with this same roster.
yeah, I agree. Paul George would be a sick addition to that team.
That would
I
be
pulled
cool.
up
That'd be cool.
Tobias's stats. He's struggling like crazy. He's 10 points has been his max in a couple games. So he's averaging
God.
8 and change. And Buddy got a do not like did not play in the last game. He did not touch the floor after a really hot start to joining the Sixers roster. And granted, Embiid was out. He has fallen off a cliff, and he just somehow does not mesh well, which is unfortunate because like he is in theory kind of awesome and a great fit for the Sixers team as just like a pure scorer. So that's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah. Like when they made the trade, we're saying it was awesome because you just get this idea of like, Embiid down low, Maxi running the show, and then you just have this lights out shooter and Buddy Hield setting up next to them. But yeah, it hasn't worked out. I don't know if it's been like defensive struggles that keeps him off. His shooting like kind of fell off along with his confidence really in the playoffs. I believe it's also his first playoff series ever. So maybe that's a little bit weird having your first series at around, I don't know, it's got to be around 30 at this point.
Yeah, I think he's 30.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some nerves to it. I forget if do they have Buddy Healed again next year, or is he on expiring right now?
I believe he's on an expiring. I think he's an unrestricted free agent.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So if things don't work out, maybe they let him go, which is okay. Just open some more cap space for them. In theory, I like the trade. It made sense in my brain, but they don't all work out.
Yeah. Go to Orlando, buddy. And Tobias. Anyway.
I mean, we'll see. Well, that might be our segue to another more interesting series in Orlando and Cleveland, which I did not think it was gonna be a series, especially after the first two games. Like I kind of thought that the Cavs just had a more talented roster and they could probably get it done in five. Clearly not the case. We're guaranteed to go at least 6 games at this point. It's insane that neither of these offenses are capable of doing anything when they're away. Because essentially the Cavs blew out the Magic twice when they were at home. And the Cavs offense looked amazing and the Magic couldn't make anything. And then all of a sudden you go to Orlando and now this Cavs offense is like one of the worst I've ever looked at. And then the Magic are going off. So now I just don't know what to make of this series. Regardless, I don't think either of these teams are going to be capable of putting up a fight against the Celtics in the next round. But this has all of a sudden turned into a slugfest, and I don't really know what to make of it.
Yeah, it hasn't been pretty. Um,
No, no.
yeah. Well, they take turns playing well, I guess, but yeah. I guess Darius Garland, I mean, I kind of just had the epiphany that he might not be as great of a basketball player. I mean, I'd like to give him
I
benefit of
still
the
swear he's good. I swear Darius Garland is good at basketball. I'll die on this hill.
yeah, and it can't, Donovan Mitchell is extremely ball dominant. It can't be super easy to kind of find your game playing next to him. But yeah, Jared Allen is having a great series. I think Evan Mobley's kind of struggling.
I was looking at stats for like the last two games. Pretty much everyone's been dog shit since coming to Orlando, except Allen. I believe Allen was their top scorer the last two games in Orlando. I love Jared Allen. He's an all-star caliber player. But in theory, he should be their fourth offensive option. So like that just goes to show how poorly the rest of them are playing. I think game one, Garland had like 4 points or 6 points or something like that, and followed it up with like under 15 again. Mitchell's been scoring really poorly in Orlando as well, which is kind of surprising. And yeah, Mobley's been very much a non-factor. So it's really only been Allen who has shown up on the road for them, which is super weird. And yeah, Garland has not looked very good at all. But granted, none of them have looked good in Orlando. So I don't know if this is like a chemistry thing. I I just I don't know if they thought they were gonna sweep, and then all of a sudden the Magic came out and just punched them in the mouth. I'm not sure. I thought this Cavs team was way more talented. I like their starting lineup looks so good on paper, but
It does.
I don't know. The Magic defense has always been good, and now it's like really starting to show up here and it's making it really difficult for the Cavs. And they've just been finding ways to get enough offense. Like Franz went off game four. Before that, it was Banchero and Suggs. Like Suggs had like a huge game three. So they kind of just have like enough guys to put together enough offense. So I don't know. All of a sudden, like the Magic look pretty decent.
Yeah, I think they could no wink wink win this series. Um, I think in the last episode I was like, oh, I think like they could take it to 7. I think it could be competitive, but I am still going with the Cavs at the end of the day. Probably still would lean the Cavs. I mean, I guess they have home court advantage, and that's what might just decide the series. But um, yeah, Franz and Paolo are very special. I think one thing that's underrated about both of them is how they kind of share the ball and are pretty willing passers. Like I think they both average like 5, 6 assists as you know, scoring forwards. That's I think that's impressive. And although their offense is pretty horrible, they still have moments where they click all together so well with Suggs, with Wendell, with Mo Wagner. They just have like a really nice chemistry to them that disappears
Yeah.
sometimes, but they seem to stick together for the most part. So um, yeah, because like even Tatum and Brown, obviously they're miles above Paolo and Franz at this point. They're older, obviously, but the passing difference is interesting. How Franz and Paolo are much more, I guess, willing passers, whereas Brown and Tatum are better scorers and kind of have always been. So
Yeah, and I think Franz and Banchero both came in being more natural passers. Because like Banchero was averaging like 5 assists his rookie year essentially, which is a leap that Tatum didn't make probably until year four-ish. And then Franz, like, this is sound a little stereotypical, but that Euro style of basketball, like he is a great passer. And his efficiency is ridiculous. Like his stats from game four, where it was 34 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists. And it was zero turnovers, about 60% shooting, 2 for 3 from the 3-point line. Like ridiculous stats, especially considering he hardly missed and didn't have any turnovers. So that's very tough to beat.
Mo Wagner had like a pretty insane poster on. I think Jared Allen.
I kind of love Mo
I
Wagner.
used to hate him, but guess what? Like he's proven that he can come off the bench and be a productive player. And that is not something a lot of NBA brothers whose brother is a star can say. So yeah, Mo had some really quality minutes throughout the season and in the last game. I don't know if he played much the games before, but um yeah, that's kind of awesome. And apparently he's roommates with his brother, which is kind of wholesome. And
That's awesome, especially with the money they're making right now because they totally don't need to do that.
yeah, but yeah, it's cost effective and why not if you and your brother make the NBA, might as well. And you're on the same team. Come on, like
Yeah.
might as well
No, it's
share.
gotta be super fun. They can hold themselves accountable with like their eating habits when they get up, their workout schedule. Like it makes sense. And it's probably just tons of fun.
Yeah. So if they should make a reality series or something.
Yeah, at least have a TikTok channel or something.
Yeah. Anyway, go Magic. Go
Cool.
Magic. And
Yeah. Yeah, I want to give a final prediction for this now.
Okay.
Since things switched up a little bit, because my sweep slash Cavs in five is definitely not possible anymore. Um, I'm still gonna go with the Cavs. It's more so just banking on the home team just always seems to blow out the away team. Don't really know what to make of this series, so the Cavs have more home games. I'll go with them. But regardless, I do think the winner of this will probably be handled fairly easily by the Celtics, but the Celtics also do tend to make um, series more interesting than they need to be. So we'll see. But I'm going to go Cavs in seven, but I don't feel great about it.
Yeah. I'm pretty 50-50, but for the show, I will switch my pick now to officially the Magic in 7. Um as much as I love the Magic, I still am a bit more worried for the still playing the Cavs as a Celtics fan. I feel like Donovan Mitchell always has great games against us, and but both great
Totally,
defensive
totally.
teams. Um
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. It's like even with like how the Cavs feel like they've been exposed a little bit on offense in this series, it still feels like they have, I don't know, they just have the guys. Like they win a guy off against the Magic and a lot of other teams when you say like Donovan Mitchell, Garland, Jared Allen, Mobley, Strus is a good pickup. Like they have good guys. So if it does click, they can make an interesting series with anybody, but it's definitely not clicking right now.
Yeah, because ultimately I feel like the Magic have great young energy. They're optimistic. Now they're coming off 2 wins. Like this is a team that's surging and their confidence is through the roof. And here's Cleveland on the other end, falling below expectations, losing to the young team, kind of a second year in a row with potentially a disappointing outcome. So I think the pressure is building up, and also, I could see that maybe there's some tension there. Mitchell might be a bit disgruntled. He's looking towards the future, and I'm speculating like crazy, but
That's what this is all about.
yeah,
This is the
all
best
to
time to
say
speculate mid-series.
the energy, the chakras, the whatever you want to call it, I think might favor Orlando overall, and that might tip the scales. Whereas Cleveland does, I think you're right, have the better guys. They win the guy off.
Yeah, that's a fair take. It feels like the Magic have the momentum right now, so we'll kind of have to see what happens in Game Five.
All right, which series should we tackle? I mean, we've kind of just stuck in the East, right?
Yeah, so let's transition a little bit. Let's see, we only got a couple minutes left in this one, so I'm thinking we transition over to the bad series. There's still we've
Yeah.
only hit on one of them so far for me, Celtics and Heat. So let's kind of just like rattle through these last couple of bad ones, and then we'll save the good ones, which I have marked as let's see, Clippers, Mavs, and
Hey,
well, I don't know. Maybe it's up for debate. I don't know. I actually had Bucks and Pacers also in the bad area now, but let's go there then, since maybe that's up for debate. Bucks Pacers now 3-1. Um, it sounds like Dame and Giannis might both miss game five. Um, so I kind of think this is going to be over. I think that the Pacers are going to close this out 4-1, which is kind of crazy that they're handling the Bucks this easily. Granted, Giannis has not played yet this series. When we were doing our predictions, we were like, we think the Bucks are probably going to win in a longer series, but we expect Giannis to be back for game two or game three. We're currently going to game five. We don't know if he's going to be back. So all of a sudden, it does not feel great for the Bucks. Lillard has shown flashes, but it's kind of a big ask for him to carry this Bucks team without Giannis against a Pacers team which has been very lively. Even with Tyrese Halliburton like not playing particularly well, it's been a little bit overlooked by the fact they're up 3-1 in the series. But let me pull up his stats because they're actually like not good at all.
hmm.
Let's see, Halliburton's averaging 16 points per game, 10 assists, 6 rebounds, shooting like 43% from the field, 29% from three. Super inefficient, super low scoring for him. Not even really taking a lot of shots. It's been weird, but the team's been winning. Siakam has been scoring a ton. Siakam has looked really good. All of a sudden, that trade, it just makes a lot of sense in these playoffs, and he's been carrying the offense for them. So maybe that's why Halliburton's been willing to do less on offense and be a bit more of a distributor. But the Pacers look like they've found themselves in a pretty easy matchup here. So I think they'll kind of close this out now.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I think maybe I did underrate Siakam. I mean, he is such an incredible player, and they have some decent pieces. But yeah, I think if I knew that Giannis would not be playing, I would have probably picked the Pacers. Maybe that's a bit of hindsight 2020, but I think I can say that without being deceptive.
I yeah, I don't think that's like a biased hindsight take. I think that's a very reasonable take. So yeah, we're starting to see that a little bit. Lillard's looked pretty good, but he has been like a little bit on and off. Like obviously he had that like insanely explosive first half in one of those games, but other than that, it's just been too much to ask for him to carry this Bucks team.
Yeah, and the Pacers, they run in transition, they play hard.
Turner's also been electric. I don't know his stat lines have been this series,
Yeah,
but he's been hitting threes. He's been having amazing blocks, sick dunks. Like all of a sudden his role is like perfectly solidified with Siakam there. Because it felt like it was too big of an ask for him to be like the number two scorer on this team. But as a number three scorer, it's like he kind of fills into this very nice Porzingis role where he can just focus big time on defense and then just offense at the 3-point line and around the rim. And it's perfect for his skill set. So all of a sudden it's like for a little while, it felt like you were always wanting more out of Miles Turner. And now it feels like we're getting everything we need from him. And the Pacers look awesome. And the role play's been good. Like Neesmith has been really nice for them.
yeah.
Nembhard has been like awesome every time he steps into the game. Like they're just getting really great minutes out of their role players. So they got some fun young guys on the team also. And I like them. They're definitely up and coming right now.
Yeah, I pulled up Miles Turner stats and yeah, definitely impressive. He had 29 in the last couple games
Yeah,
and
holy shit.
shots, yeah, 7 of 9 from 3 in the last game and a few blocks. Yeah, super efficient. Yeah, he had 22 and 17 in the first couple games, which is still awesome. As we know, rebounding isn't exactly his gift, despite being huge, but yeah, he's filling the stat sheet for sure. Um, yeah, Neesmith, kind of cool seeing him step up. I mean, I think we knew as Celtics fans that he had some potential. It was never realized with us, but
Yeah.
it's finally coming together.
Yeah, we always liked the 3-point potential of Neesmith. And he shows more than that too. Like his defense is really solid. He's scrappy, he hustles. So that was a win-win trade. That was good to just give him the role on the Pacers. He's doing great over there. And if they win, it sets up for a super interesting series between the Knicks and Pacers, probably the teams with the two best starting point guards in the East. Both should have been all-star starters. Kind of insane that Lillard got the start over Brunson in the All-Star game. We said it at the time. It is even more evident as the season has gone on that Brunson was absolutely snubbed. So you do get this really interesting point guard showdown. Um, both both teams are red hot. I think the Knicks in particular. Pacers maybe have a better number two with Siakam, but like the Knicks have been so good that I don't know, maybe that doesn't matter. I don't know who to pick there yet. We'll have to wait for these series to actually wrap up before we make our picks there. But I just know I would love that series. It would be so awesome if it happens.
I would stick with my Knicks for sure, but it would be an awesome series. And yeah, in conclusion, I love seeing Doc Rivers kind of struggle. I always live for that. I don't know why, he won us a championship here in Boston, but I've just never really vibed with him, and he doesn't have a great resume in the playoffs, and I think it's funny that it's just continuing. I also find
Yeah.
it
One Doc point, it's like I know there's gonna be another classic, like, oh yeah, Doc Rivers, like terrible playoff performance, but like I don't know if there's a whole lot he could have done in this series. Like the
the
Bucks roster without Giannis is like not super interesting. Like I thought you've got like old like Brooke Lopez, Bobby Portis. I think I saw Jay Crowder out there still getting minutes, and I'm like, I don't know what's really going on here, man. I don't know who he can score. So like Pat Beverly's been starting games for them. Like the roster's pretty bleak right now without Giannis, so I don't totally fault Doc for this. They should just get Bud. I never understood the Bud firing. Bud was a great coach.
yeah. It'll be interesting if anything's unveiled there. Yeah, obviously they lost to Miami last year, but that still felt pretty.
Felt like an overreaction. Like they just won the championship, like just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear rumblings that Giannis can be kind of, I don't know, demanding, I guess, for lack of a better word. I think he
Tough
might.
shit. I don't know. Sometimes they just got to put up with it. You can't always just make decisions based off. I mean, obviously, you want to keep your superstars happy. We also just need to keep in mind what's best for the team.
But I think I've heard rumors. Obviously, they're probably bullshit, but that Giannis wanted Bud gone and then Adrian Griffin also. But I think maybe the Adrian Griffin was more of a consensus decision there. But
Yeah, yeah,
I
no, that
imagine
that
there's
went that went bad immediately.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I imagine there's a bit of turmoil in the locker room. Yeah, I was gonna say another funny thing was just how the Bucks had lost to the Pacers in the in-season tournament. There was this whole debacle with like a game ball, and it was Giannis's big
Oh
game.
yeah, classic.
And I think Damian Lillard just kind of talked some shit and but basically insinuated that it didn't really matter and that come playoffs it's different. And I think he talked more shit after game one, and now
Yeah,
the
Bobby Portis also got ejected last game. Like it's been scrappy.
yeah. And Halliburton, yeah, he's got great energy. He just seems to smile through all of it. So hopefully they can close it out soon. And yeah, it'll be a good series against the Knicks.
I think so too. Oh yeah, we got four more games left to talk about. Two interesting, two not interesting. Or sorry, series. So let's part two this and then we'll get to those ones.
Sweet, let's do it.
All right, let's see. As I mentioned, we have four series left to talk about. I said two are interesting, two are not. Really, only one of them left is like actually interesting. One of them was also not interesting, but I thought the storylines were interesting. Let's start with the final, like actually interesting series, maybe the best one. We have Clippers, Mavericks 2-2, and a very exciting 2-2. Not the same 2-2 as Orlando and Cleveland. Like this has been very back and forth. Both teams look awesome. Still relatively unclear who is going to win it. But it's been awesome. I've thoroughly enjoyed this series. I've loved watching it. It has been, I don't know, it's been a great back and forth. I feel like I never know who's going to win every night. It was super weird after game one where the Clippers blew out the Mavs, and then all of a sudden it felt like, maybe the Clippers are the better team here, and then the Mavs just came right back game two and won that, and then it's been back and forth ever since. Um, I don't really know what to make of this. If you want to talk about the Mavs, go for it. I know they were your preseason darling. They look good, but the Clippers also look pretty solid right now.
Yeah, ultimately, I think the series is kind of going exactly how I expected, with them just taking big shots at each other. I still don't know who's going to come out as the winner. Um, and yeah, super close games. I think the Mavs came down back from down like 30 points. Last game made it competitive.
Yeah, so weird. That was so weird.
Yeah. And what, Kawhi, did Kawhi play the last game? I think he has. Oh no, he didn't play the last game.
Yeah, Kawhi missed the last one.
Only
So
the first one.
yeah, the Clippers are starting to bleed a little bit as far as injuries go, which is exactly why they went out and got Harden. Harden has been by far their best player in the playoffs here. He's been amazing, whereas PG and Kawhi have both been a little streaky. Also Kawhi missing the last game. Yeah, I had something here where it's like in game three, PG and Kawhi both combined for 16 points together. So not a great showing there by any means. They obviously lost that game. So I don't know. They haven't looked great. We definitely have not seen I don't know, hasn't felt like playoff Kawhi yet or playoff P. But James Harden, of course, notable, amazing playoff guy is going off, so he's keeping them in it. Zubats has been pretty good. Clippers are still very deep, so it's still an interesting series. But I do think the struggle slash like injury struggles with Kawhi and PG helps tilt this a little in favor of the Mavs, but like maybe only like 52%, 48%. I still just don't really know.
What's up with Paul George? I mean, I know Kawhi
I
was
don't
good.
think it I don't think he has any injury struggles right now. I think he's just going through some playoff inconsistencies, but like he went off like last game, so he still is playing well. He still looks good. He kind of had an off game three, but I don't know, he looked really good last game. So if he keeps playing like that, then who knows? Maybe the Clippers can win this, even if Kawhi doesn't play again this series. It could really go either way.
Yeah. But the Kawhi thing is concerning, and we knew that coming into the series, but it seems that
Hmm.
it is affecting him. Is he going to play all three of the next three if it goes to seven, of course? That'll be interesting. So for that reason, I'm with you. I kind of lean a bit more towards the Mavericks, and because I still think they have more aura, but
Yeah,
um,
exactly. It's kind of what we said at the start of the series. I think we both lean Mavs. I probably should have just taken the Clippers for the pod since you've been the Mavs guy all year. But I got like unreasonably hot on the Mavs after the deadline. I think as you mentioned, the aura is undeniable. Kyrie, I think, has been by far the best player in this series. He's averaging 29 per game on ridiculous efficiency, shooting 48% from three. He's been incredible. His highlights have been classic Kyrie, absolute magician out there. So I think that's huge for the Mavs. weirdly, like Luca has been dominant and his stats look good as ever, but he's had some struggles. He's only shooting 38% on the series, so not the usual Luca efficiency we're used to, but also the fact he shot that poorly and it's still 2-2 means if he can kind of kick up into another gear for these last three games, that would also be really good for the Mavericks. So it's interesting, but I do like the Mavs here. And as I mentioned, Kyrie Irving has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, I yeah, it's been an awesome series. It's very, very back and forth, and I expect it to go to 7, and I kind of expect Luca to work his Luca magic and pull them through. But anything could happen. I love Ty Lue, and I love his coaching, and I like the roster they built in LA, and kind of just looking at each roster, I'm like guy for guy, like in a guy off, the Clippers might have the Mavs beat, but aura
Yeah.
matters, and it's so tough. It's so tough.
Yeah, and the weird thing is I think although the Clippers probably win the guy off, I think the Mavericks have the two best players in the series right now,
Yeah.
given Kawhi's injuries. So I think that's also massively important, maybe more important than depth. But it's still very neck and neck right now, so we won't really know until this series is over.
Yeah, shit. There's not much else I have to add. I mean, it's just kind of been what it is, and
Yeah.
I don't know. Has anyone else really stood out that we didn't expect? It doesn't really feel that way, right? I mean,
Funny enough, no, it's like for the Mavs, something I did put down in my notes is like it feels like one other person needs to step up at some point. Like one of their role players kind of needs to go for a 20-point game to steal something. And if it doesn't happen this round, they still get past. It feels like they still need one more guy to step up just as the playoffs go on. Because it feels a little unsustainable to bank on like 40 points from Luca, 40 from Kyrie, and then kind of scrap together those last 25 or 30 points. Feels like you need somebody. I don't know what's going on with
Hardaway.
yeah, is Hardaway hurt right now?
I don't know. I don't know because I do not think he played in the last one.
That's what I was gonna say because I was like, I remember going through their depth chart and I was like, I feel like they're just missing a scorer right now. Let's see. Yeah, no, he's injured. He's
Oh, yeah.
potentially going to come back for the next game. But yeah, he was out for game four. So that's probably someone they need to step up with the scoring just a little bit. Just give them one game where you go off. We don't need you to score like 18 a game for them. We just need one 25-point game to get them over the hump. So that could be good. But other than that, they're kind of just cobbling together the points wherever they can get it. It was like, some games Gafford's over 10 points. Sometimes he's under, but then Lively's over. Sometimes Jones plays well. Sometimes Washington. None of them are really stepping up consistently, but they're stepping up enough to where it just gives them enough points to get out some of these wins. Unlike a team we might transition to in a second, like the Suns, where their stars are getting their points, but literally just nobody else can get over like 6 points on the team.
Yeah, I'm down to transition. I guess the last
All
thing I'll
right,
say is play
yeah, close this
Exum.
out here.
Play Exum. Come on, Mavericks. He hasn't been getting any time. He hit that game winner.
Yeah, that's where the additional offense needs to come from. Give him a chance out here. Y'all clearly need one more guy to step up.
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem like he's gotten over like 15 minutes. So anyway,
Probably for the best.
yeah, probably.
All right, let's
Suns,
see.
Timberwolves. Yeah.
Yeah. Suns Timberwolves. I had this one like my interesting category. Obviously not interesting. This was a sweep and a very, very clean sweep. Like I didn't really feel like the Suns were in any of these games. They just got absolutely curb stomped, which I did not see coming. I said the Suns were originally going to win, partially for content. Don't yell at me. I really like the Timberwolves. But yeah, no, I didn't really foresee this sweep. They got manhandled out there. Edwards is by far the best guy in the series, which is kind of crazy to say with a series that has Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, but he was incredible, clear superstar. Highlights were amazing. And the Wolves defense really just had the Suns in a stranglehold. It felt like no one was really going off. I know Booker had one huge game, but he really struggled outside of that one huge game. Really got locked up by McDaniels. So I don't know. The Wolves defense is very legit. And I think it was pretty clear the Suns offense just didn't have anything outside Beal, Booker, and Durant, even when they were all three of them were playing well, which didn't happen a whole lot.
Yeah. Although not a competitive series, especially those first two games, I had so much fun watching. Um, yeah, I was huge on the Wolves. I felt that they were going to close it out in 6, but a sweep is not something that I foresaw. And yeah, just kind of a pathetic showing by the Suns, but at the same
Very
time,
pathetic.
the Wolves proved to be a very legitimate defense. I mean, they are the best defense in the NBA. It's like they switch so seamlessly. They communicate well. Jaden McDaniels is incredible, but then Rudy Gobert is awesome. Edwards can lock up anyone as well. Like and then yeah, on the other end, like Ant has looked awesome. Gobert was just a monster on the boards. Like he gave Nurkic a ton of trouble, and Cat is like kind of a mismatch anywhere, and he had a pretty solid performance, and I think Cat is doing exactly what he needs to do, not too much, but also just finding his scoring when he needs to, and he's a great scorer, so very proud of my Timberwolves. Maybe not my Timberwolves, but this is a
You can
team that
claim them. You can take credit for their success. That was all you.
yeah, I've rode for this team for a while, but obviously I think Ant just being such a superstar has just changed the dynamic of this team, and I think yeah, we could look ahead to them against the Nuggets, because I think that's going to actually be um a very close series, and I don't think it's one that the Nuggets have in the bag. Um I think the Wolves could give them some trouble. Obviously, I'll take the Nuggets, but um I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, or
Yeah, before we get into that, because I do want
sure?
to get into that, um, kind of like just like closing thoughts on the Suns a little bit. Fun stat I wanted to share. Saw this on TikTok from Jokic Joestar, one of my favorite TikTokers. Um, Jaden McDaniels held Bradley Beal and Booker to a combined 23% shooting when he covered them. So mini shout out to Jaden Daniels, just like electric defense on them. Something about the Suns though, I think it's interesting how even going into the playoffs, there wasn't very much buzz on them. Like no one really had considered them to be a championship team. They went outside of the sweep. No one really talked about it a ton. Even the players didn't seem that surprised. They weren't like devastated with it. I think they kind of went in knowing that the team didn't really have enough. Um, yeah, there's not a very good team. Yeah, it's like all their money is tied into like Durant, Booker, and Beal. Beal still has 3 years left on the contract, getting 50 million per year. I think it was 50 million, 54 million, then 57. He was not very good in this series. He's just not very good. I was even saying that when he was on the Wizards. So everyone said this was a bad trade when they made it. Clearly very bad. I think this team is sunk. I don't really know if they've got a way out of this at this point. So they might kind of just have to be a sad team the next couple of years until contracts are up, guys are ready to make moves, and then yeah, you kind of just blow it up. And as I alluded to also when we were talking about the series before, they just couldn't get anything about from anyone other than Durant, Book, Beal. So even when they did have a good night together and all of them were scoring 25 plus points on that night, that's great. That gets you to 75. But then if no one else on your team is scoring, like okay, like that adds them up to like 90, 95 points. They just couldn't get offense from anybody. The team doesn't run a real offense also, which I think is a part of the issue. It is just like the classic my turn, your turn offense that everyone likes to hate on. And the roster construction is really bad. So that's what they ended up getting. Team sucks. Team sad. Don't know what to do from here. Going to be a bad offseason for them, I think.
Yeah, I forget who their owner is, but he's this young, super rich guy, and
Yeah, he just bought the team, I think, last offseason.
he was getting a lot of credit early because he showed he was a willing spender, but as of right now, it kind of looks like he was a bit overzealous, and that you know the great teams in the NBA tend not to be the ones that are bought and kind of expected to win in a season or two. They're usually kind of fostered over a longer period of time. But yeah,
Yeah.
tough spot for the Suns.
Yeah. It feels like the owner is label shopping a little bit where he's like, oh, yeah, I can get this, Louis Vuitton handbag. Wow, let me go get that. And it's like, you know what, maybe this isn't the best thing ever. Like maybe we probably would have been better off with, allocating this money differently. And that's definitely how the Beal trade feels. So yeah, they're not a great spot, but transition to Timberwolves, super exciting. Um, a series with them and the Nuggets would be fascinating. In our little bracket challenge that we did with our buddies from high school, I actually had the Wolves beating the Nuggets round two.
Oh,
Um, I think I might roll with that one for content, and two, I do think they're a very interesting matchup for the Nuggets. And as good as the Nuggets are, it's like it's very hard to repeat in championships. So I think this will be their biggest test before the finals. And I think if there's a team to do it, it would be the Wolves. I think Gobert is a good matchup with Jokic. Obviously, no one can stop him. No one can even really slow him down, but maybe Gobert can make it just hard enough to slow down the offense to give the Wolves a real chance. And like Edwards has been so good and Cat have been so good to where it's like obviously Jokic can be the best guy in the series, but then it's like easily Ant, then Cat, and then maybe Murray after that. But if Ant and Cat are both scoring the ball well, which they really did in this first series against the Suns, then I think they've got a real chance. And I think there's some hard matchups out there. Like I don't really know who on the Nuggets is going to guard Anthony Edwards. I guess you can put Michael Porter Jr. on Cat, and although the size matchup makes sense, Michael Porter Jr. is not the most stout defender out there. So Cat could definitely make it hard for him, especially down low. So I think it's an interesting matchup. I think it's the Nuggets are obviously the favorites going into it and just going into the playoffs, but I don't know. I like this matchup for the Wolves. So I'm kind of just rolling with what my heart's telling me here.
No, I feel the same way, and I think the Nuggets have gotten the better of the Wolves, but I
The,
think they
the, the
played.
Suns were also 3-0 against the Timberwolves though in the regular season. Like this
Yeah,
is fresh start now. Who knows what can happen?
did they play last year in the playoffs or something? Um, I don't know, but
They very well may have. I do think historically the Nuggets have always had them, but this Timberwolves team is also so different from any of the teams they've had recently. Even though the roster is the same as last year, but it's all just come together a lot nicer. Cat's been healthy. Gobert has refound himself in Minnesota. Like this team is, I don't know, it just doesn't even compare to last year, even though it's the same roster. And also shout out Naz Reid. Naz Reid is amazing. He is still playing super well. Don't think he should have been 6 man of the year. Probably should have been Malik Monk. But I can't be mad. It's Naz Reid. He has the most aura in the league.
yeah, no, and that's why he was the thumbnail of our Aura video.
Very
Um,
worthy.
yeah, the Timberwolves have, again, you're not stopping Gobert, but they have a lot of great bigs and Jaden McDaniels, his size, they can throw a lot at Gobert, and just their switchability and
Throwing
how
a
they
lot of
read
Gobert.
at
Jokic.
Jokic, um, and how they read and react on defense. Um, I think is going to prove tough against the Nuggets, who do a lot of kind of improvising on offense and kind of moving off ball. I think the Timberwolves are really good at kind of reacting and adjusting to that on the fly. So, and then on offense, yeah, it's like who's gonna stop Anthony Edwards? I mean, you've got Gordon, you've got Michael Porter, but Edwards is a bit smaller, quicker, shiftier. Um, and
Yeah, it's like I think I've put KCP on him. Probably not. They probably will just put Gordon on him, which I do think is a good option, but I don't think they have a solution. I just think Edwards is going to get his, and they're going to have to live with that.
yeah, this series is going to be unreal. I think. I think it goes 6 or 7. I lean Nuggets. I'll stick with the Nuggets, but I am a Timberwolves truther. I'm an Anthony Edwards truther. I think this kid is like future. He is already a superstar. Like, but I think we're talking a top 5 guy for years to come. He's 23 or 22. Like, insane what this kid is doing, and yeah, he's just a dog. He just has aura. He's just out there doing what he does, and I think they're going to be a very good test for the Nuggets, and they could possibly win it. I don't think it's a lock. And I think they did
Yeah,
play each other in the last year's playoffs. I think it was the 8 versus 1 seed, and they took one game. So Denver obviously dominated. No Cat, but these teams are very familiar with each other.
yeah, and as we kind of mentioned earlier, very different series. Like talked about a Wolves team that was 8 seed last year, 3 seed now this year. Doesn't mean the Nuggets have home court, but obviously it doesn't mean everything. And yeah, as you mentioned with Edwards, like I feel like it always takes that first playoff series win to like really solidify yourself as this new age superstar and really get yourself into that conversation of best player in the league. Um, Still a couple more rungs to get there, probably just like one back of that, but I do think he's in the conversation for top 5. I just looked up; he's 22 and he's still 22 until August. So he's like, yeah, he's still super young, like not turning 23 anytime soon. The ceiling is ridiculous with him, and not only is like his play ceiling super high, but it's just his style. The way he plays makes him super marketable, super fun to watch. I'm seeing all the Jordan comps on Twitter where everyone's like, if this guy doesn't remind you of Jordan, then I don't know what you're watching. Maybe that's a little bit rich, but he does have a super awesome play style to watch. These like explosive scorers, high flyers, awesome attitude, great shit talker. These kind of guys are just like the league thrives with these kind of players. So it's really awesome seeing him, come to form.
And he's very efficient. Like he's not
Yes.
gonna yeah, he's just efficient. He plays, when he's hot, he's gonna see it through. If he's not, I think he's willing to kind of give it up. And um yeah, he seems like an awesome teammate. He seems to ride for his guys. And yeah, all of a sudden the Timberwolves, after what seemed like a devastating trade to go out and get Gobert and give up what they gave up, still is kind of insane. But yeah, Ant has made the future bright in Minnesota, and Jaden McDaniels, I think, is only 23, 24 too. And he has a lot of work to do offensively, but the defensive upside at that young age, like, is awesome. And yeah, like Nikhil Alexander Walker had an amazing series against Phoenix. Obviously Jaden, we mentioned, showed out. Mike Conley is still an awesome piece. Like, Minnesota is so much fun, and I think they're going to be a fun team for many years to come.
Yeah, and the Gobert trade was so funny because everyone at the time, myself included, was like, this trade is terrible. You just gave up too much for Gobert. And like, although maybe it's still true they gave up too much, at this point it just doesn't matter. Like this team is so good that it's worth what they gave up to get this team to this point, even if they could have done the deal for less. So I don't think you'd be mad at it at this point.
Yeah.
And maybe some takes were a little rich. I think I might have been like, I might just rather have Walker Kessler right now, who I love, but his minutes have definitely been lower as of recently. So we'll kind of see about that take. It's not looking as great anymore. So I don't know. I think the deal was fine for the Wolves now in hindsight, and this team is just amazing. I just want to read off some Edwards stats from this playoff run, just to really show his efficiency. So he averaged 31 points per game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, which is a lot of assists because he didn't really come into the league as this big like playmaker. He was kind of expected to be this, prototypical two-way wing. As I mentioned with Tatum, it usually takes some time to really develop that playmaking, but already up to 6 assists for that playoff run, which is really awesome. And then he shot 51% overall and 44% from three, which I think is super interesting on 8 attempts per game. That is high volume. That's great consistency. I remember when he was rapid, he would show flashes of it, but everyone always said like the 3-point shot would probably have to develop. May never be, an excellent 3-point shooter. And he's proving that like he is a very competent 3-point shooter. And like when he gets hot, he can be excellent from there. So that's really scary. Become a he's become a complete player. It's like the efficiency is great, the passing is great, the shooting is great. He's got it all. The defense is great. Like he's a complete player. He's so good. So happy for Minnesota.
Yeah, yeah. Not much more to say. I guess, and that efficiency is coming off him, doing crazy step backs, ISOs, taking guys like Kevin Durant off the dribble.
Yeah, he's taking hard threes out there. Like 44% on difficult threes is ridiculous.
Yeah. No, he's special. I expect a bit of regression against a much more competent and complete team in the Denver Nuggets. But I think he's gonna ball out. And yeah, no, that is, I think, the series I'm most excited for. And yeah, I mean, obviously we don't know a lot of the other series, but for me, Timberwolves Nuggets is gonna be incredible. It's really gonna be incredible. But
Yeah, yeah. Not only do I think that's by far the best round two series, but it could legitimately be the best series until we get to the finals. It feels like this might be the two best teams in the West right now, or at least the two most ready to compete in the playoffs. No offense to the Thunder, they got the top seed, they look really good, but I don't know why. I just think this Wolves Nuggets matchup is excellent, and I think part of it is like styles make fights, and I think these styles are just going to be super interesting to watch play against each other.
well said. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, no, I'm excited. And hopefully there's that famous clip of, I'm gonna butcher it, but it's basically Jokic telling Gobert that he's got 40 on his head when Gobert is complaining or something. So hopefully Gobert can redeem
Classic,
himself a bit.
classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And Gobert's also a good shit talker. Maybe it's not always evident because half the time it's in French, but He's scrappy. He's scrappy. So it's definitely gonna be an interesting series. Gonna be a lot of shit talk coming from the Timberwolves.
And a better offensive player than I think he gets credit for, my boy Gobert. He manages some nice stat lines.
For
So
sure. He cleans up the glass so well. And then not only does he get those offensive rebounds, but he's because of his size and he does have some good IQ in the paint. He's really able to convert on those second chance opportunities. He's got to be one of the better players as far as getting an offensive rebound and immediately converting into a layup or dunk. He's just got a knack for it.
yeah, no, he shouldn't be understated. I love Gobert, and it's nice because he did kind of struggle last year, and now it seems he's back in form. But
Yeah, he's going to be Depoy again. He's amazing. He's one of the best defensive players of all time.
should be Wemby. But as long as it's a French guy, I guess I can.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things where team stats matters to the voters. So I think even though there's some Wemby just has ridiculous defensive stats. I think it'll be Gobert though, because I think the voters love to see best defensive player on the best defensive team.
For sure.
Anyway, we've talked about this a lot. Let's transition. We got two series left to talk about. Neither particularly interesting. One slightly more interesting, so we'll go to that one, I guess. Um, Nuggets Lakers 3-1. Clap it up for the Lakers. Didn't get swept this year. Didn't get swept. Hang the banner for them. That's huge. They did go down 3-0 to where the series was essentially over, but maybe we're getting a nice gentleman sweep this year. They did take game 4, so now maybe they go out in 5. They can feel nice about that. Yeah, this team's old. They're not very good. And the offense just sputters. Every time it feels like they've got a chance, the offense just gets halted. And the Nuggets offense is so good and so capable of going on runs that when they need to, the Nuggets just go on crazy runs, and it just seems to happen in the fourth quarter of every game against the Lakers, and they can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I know there's like that picture going around Twitter where
Yes.
it's like,
Yes.
the Nuggets have only led for X amount of time in the series, the Lakers way more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's about a 75% to 25 split on time leading, essentially saying the Nuggets have only led in 25% of minutes in the game so far, yet they're up 3-1.
Which is like, it's kind of interesting, I guess, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, the Nuggets close out games, the Lakers don't. All the games are close until a certain point, and like I guess the Lakers lead most of them. Um, it is kind of interesting, I guess, but I don't think much of it, and clearly neither does the leaderboard, as the Nuggets are sitting pretty comfortably with like the 3-1 lead, and it doesn't feel like it's been a super close series either. I mean, the Nuggets have closed out 3 of those games, I think, fairly easily.
Yeah, I will say the one that made this, it was kind of the pendulum swing was game 2, or maybe this was game 3 actually, but when Jamal Murray hit the buzzer beater when the Lakers were up 20,
Oh yeah,
Nuggets crawl back, knew it was coming. I was literally like, I was essentially like in bed following this game, and I was like, Lakers are up 20. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I have to go up and finish watching this game. The Lakers are gonna blow this. They always do. And then the Nuggets just go on this huge run in the fourth quarter. Lakers can't find any offense. They eventually bring it to a tie game. LeBron kind of takes a bad 3 at the end where it's like the classic, please just try to get to the free throw line, try to get a layup, LeBron. It's probably just not your best shot.
it was
And then
wide open
Jamal,
then
yeah, it was. It was. I don't
because
know
the
what to
guy
tell you.
fell.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe still a fine shot. Maybe we can't be too mad about it, especially with LeBron shooting 40% from 3 this year. But yeah, there you go. And then it's like the Nuggets have a chance to win it there. And Jamal Murray just hits this ridiculous step back 2 for the win. And that changes everything. Like this could potentially be a 2-2 series right now if Jamal Murray and the Nuggets don't steal that game. But they do. And they did. And it just feels like they tend to always steal those games when they have a chance to. So 3-1 could be 2-2, but this kind of feels like it was how the series was supposed to go.
Yeah, somehow I forgot about that. That was insane. I was watching that game, and yeah, what a shot over AD on the right side. So he's stepping off,
Ridiculous.
stepping back with
Ridiculous.
his left foot. Yeah. No, that was berserk. And yeah, like you said, I think we were texting and saying, yeah, the Nuggets are gonna come back. And they sure did. Unfortunate for the Lakers, like you said, they are kind of old and withered, but um at the end of the day, it's AD's been playing out of his mind. LeBron's at 39 is still doing great, and they have little
Hmm.
pieces that are good. So it's too bad they had to face the Nuggets so early. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that was a bit of a bad beat, because obviously when you're playing, like you just need to solidify your playoff spot. But I do think, had they gotten the Thunder in the first round, that would have been a super interesting series. Also might have saved us from the bloodbath that is currently the Thunder and Pelicans, which might be a good time to transition. Do you have any closing thoughts on Lakers Nuggets?
not really. I guess it'll just be interesting going forward what the Lakers do, and it's crazy to think that like LeBron, KD, Steph Curry at this point are no longer in the picture. So
Yeah, changing of the guard, it's like, they're not quite good enough to carry teams like we're seeing with some of the new era guys who just have more in the tank to where just every single offensive play they can go get a bucket. Whereas now with the older guys, they kind of need to defer sometimes. But yeah, it really is the era of these new guys. Like, you know, it's like you kind of this like middle generation, which is like the Giannis and Jokic generation. And now you're really seeing the younger generation step up, which is more of the Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Like these guys are really starting to run the league. And you see with the standings too. Like there's a reason why all these young teams are so high in the standings now, because there's just this changing of the guard.
yeah, no, I'm feeling it and seeing it more than ever. But it's something that we've kind of been anticipating, and we saw a bit of it.
Yeah, I was always a year too early on it. I've been saying it was coming for ages now, where I'm always like the younger team's going to win the series.
For sure.
We're finally there, but I think I probably started saying this like 2 years ago.
Yeah, you totally did, and I think I met you with a bit of resistance. I was like, no, the Warriors are still like gonna be awesome, but nope, they most certainly were not. But yeah, the youngest team and kind of maybe the poster children of kind of a new era and a young team. That's the Thunder. You were pretty confident. Your Pelicans, I think a bit jokingly, we're gonna still win this series, but obviously without Zion, they have they've struggled against this young Thunder team.
Yeah, yeah, they've essentially withered which makes sense. They're without Zion. I did kind of ironically say I've been riding with the Pelicans all year. Had some very spicy takes with them, so I was like, I'm going out on my sword here. I'll take them to beat the Thunder. They didn't, which I don't think is surprising. The Thunder are also one of our darlings, so I'm not upset to see it. I love this Thunder team, and they look dangerous. I think they had one of the easiest matchups with a against a Pelicans team without Zion, but they look great. They got the 1 seed for a reason. Um, the big three has played amazingly. SGA, J-Dub, Chet, even Giddy has like had some nice highlights, and maybe he's kind of rebounding a little bit after his tough start and then highly questionable scandal, but still in the league. And yeah, he's been looking pretty good too. So this Thunder team is very complete, and I'm excited to see how they do as the playoffs progress. Because let's see, who do they get round to? They would get Dallas or Clippers, which would
Exactly.
be really hard. And I think they're kind of a classic team that everyone's counting out a little bit. I think I've probably also been spreading some of this misinformation, but there's always like the classic. It's really this team's first big playoff run. Kind of unrealistic to expect them to do anything crazy, go on to beat some of these more experienced veteran teams. And we'll get a feel for that next round if they're capable of doing it. But they are very deep. And although the team's super young, SGA's been an all-star for a couple of years now. So they could go on a good run. I'm super excited to see the second round of the West because it feels like Thunder against winner of Clippers Mavs is going to be ridiculous, and then Wolves against Nuggets is also going to be an absolutely crazy series. So the West is set up for some very good drama right now, and I'm very excited for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the East, those second round playoffs I don't think compare. Because I mean, if the Celtics play the Bucks and Giannis is back, that'll be electric. But Pacers kind of feels like should be Celtics, and then the Knicks. Um,
Yeah, well, what it would actually be, because Pacers Bucks that's
oh,
three
sorry.
six.
Yeah.
So what it would be is going to be Celtics against
Magic or
Magic, yeah,
Cleveland.
or Cavs, which kind of feels like should be an easy win for the Celtics. Not necessarily saying a sweep, but like the Celtics should win that. Doesn't feel like a 50-50 ball. And then it would be Knicks, assuming they close out the Sixers, against
Pacers.
Pacers, assuming they close
Bucks.
out the Bucks. which actually would also be really interesting, but I do think it leans in favor of maybe the Knicks slightly, but I'm gonna reserve making that pick until everything is finalized. Whereas both the series in the West are like 50-50. I don't really know. I think those teams are kind of on another level than teams like the Cavs or the Pacers. So it's it's gonna be awesome. We're set up for a very great second round of the playoffs right now. We still have some games finishing up this week, but it feels like everything is coming together. We're kind of just waiting to see who ends up taking the Clippers and Mavs series and the Cavs and Magic series.
Yeah. And the Thunder are gonna be well rested, and I assume the winner of Mavs Clippers will have just endured kind of a long series there. So that could help the Thunder out. But ultimately
Absolutely.
it's gonna be two crazy series in the West. Just looking ahead, yeah, I kind of think the Knicks and Celtics are pretty likely to see each other in the conference finals. That would be kind of my prediction, and I still think the Celtics will find their way to the finals. And then I would take Nuggets Mavs as the Western Conference finalists, and I would still take the Nuggets to meet the Celtics and lose. So that's how I feel at the
I
moment.
love that. Yeah, I think my too early pick would be Celtics, of course. I'm weirdly leaning Pacers a little bit right now. I kind of just like that
Oh,
they have Halliburton and Siakam. Like that feels pretty crazy, and Turner's been great. So I don't know. I think the Pacers might be frisky. Feels weird. I don't really know who would actually win that series, but I'm going to pick them right now for fun. And then Western Conference, I've already said that I think the Wolves have a good chance in that Nugget series, taking them for fun. And it'll be Thunder, Mavs. I've really been riding with the Mavs as of recently, but I don't know. I think the freshness of the Thunder does matter. I'm gonna kind of like withhold picking my winner of that until I really see who comes out of that series. But
yeah.
I don't know. I'm starting to lean Thunder a little bit right now, so that might end up being my new pick.
And Kyrie is one of those guys too that you worry about when series kind of tend to drag on. Whereas,
Oh, totally. He's the
yeah,
ultimate playoff closer of the last decade.
but I'm saying that I worry about like his energy and
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I think Kyrie's
okay,
someone who gets better the longer the series go.
okay.
Because he's just the ultimate clutch player. So like as the series go on, I feel like the defense steps up, the games are lower scoring, people are tired, and Kyrie's just like a ball of energy, hits demoralizing shots, can't be blocked in the paint no matter how many people are there. So I think Luke and Kyrie are the ultimate closers to have together, and I think the longer the series goes on for, the better it is for the Mavs, especially with how injury prone this Clippers team is.
I totally, yeah, I agree with that. Just in general, Kyrie and his injury history kind of worries me, and I'm like,
Understandable.
can he make it all the way to the finals healthy? I don't know, but he's looked great, and you know we hope he can stay healthy because that Mavericks team looks crazy. But yeah, we don't have much time left. Are there any closing thoughts? I mean,
Nope. No major closing thoughts.
yeah,
Thank you all for tuning in again. We are going to be watching the rest of these series very closely, kind of seeing how they wrap up, especially those two series that are tied 2-2 right now. Those feel like the most interesting ones left. So once everything's said and done, and we actually have our matchups for the second round, we'll probably run another pod and see how we're feeling again. But it feels like we're almost there. It feels like a lot of these series are kind of reaching the end. So we've got a super exciting second round coming up. Stay tuned for more content. The second round is going to be awesome to watch and awesome to talk about. So thank you all again for tuning in. It is much appreciated. Like and subscribe.
God bless everyone.